Counselor So, would you go ahead and invocation?
Please stand. Dear Heavenly Father, creator of all things, we come to you this morning. We just thank you for this breath of life you've given us today, Lord. We just thank you for this beautiful weather you've given us to dry things out a little bit, Lord. And just thank you for all the many blessings you've given us this week. Please guide and direct us and help us to make prudent decisions. In Jesus' name, amen.
Roll call, please.
Jack Baker,
Here.
Cherokee Watts, Bill England,
Here.
Bill John Baker,
Here.
Harley Buzzard,
Here.
Julia Coates, Bradley Cobb,
Aye.
Joe Crittenden, Jody Fishenhawk, here. Meredith Fraley, Janelle Fulbright, here. Dawn Garvin, Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Here.
Tina Glory Jordan, Curtis Snell,
Here.
Chris Soap,
Here.
David Thornton. We do have a quorum.
Okay, we do have a quorum. We went through the reports and consent items the last time. And next is old business, and item 1 is the tarot.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Garvin.
we've been working on this, seemed like forever, and I think we've got everything in place. We just need to give it time to work, and I'm gonna make the motion we table this today.
Second. Okay. The motion's been made and seconded that we table the old business. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Roll call, please.
Harley Buzzard,
Can I ask a question for discussion?
There's no discussion on tabling, but is
No.
it,
No.
is it a clarification?
I guess it would be clarification. If we table this, is this going to come back for discussion at a later time?
The motion made to table, it didn't say a date.
Okay, that answered my question. I vote no.
Bradley Cobb,
Yes.
Joe Crittenden, Jody Fishenhawk,
No.
Meredith Fraley,
No.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Dawn Garvin,
Yes,
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
No.
Tina Glory Jordan,
No.
Chris Soap,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
no,
David Thornton,
No.
Cherokee Watts,
Yes.
Bill England,
yes,
Bill John Baker,
No.
Jack Baker.
Yes.
We have 7 yes and 8 no.
Okay. Motion to table failed. Okay. Is there, do I hear a motion for the
I'd like to
approval of item
motion
1?
for the-
Pardon?
I'd like to make a motion for the approval with some amendments.
Okay. Which are?
The ones that was handed out in front of you. The first one on here is something that's already in policy and procedure. It's being done. It's just not law.
I'll second.
Okay.
Part B, I'm going to ask Meredith and Tina to address because they can explain it better to me than I can. Part B on that one that was handed out, Meredith.
So the motion's been made and seconded that we approve the Terrell Act with the proposed changes that were passed out.
Yes.
Okay. So, in the discussion, you want to yield to Meredith to explain?
Yes, Part B. I'm reading it.
Okay.
That's what we talked about.
We had a second too, right?
Yes, Bill John seconded.
don't
Yes.
mind addressing 17.
Okay.
We had some informal communications with some of the bigger taro vendors, and it was suggested that on this particular item, which I tend to agree with them, and I believe Meredith also tended to agree with them, that you should give a small break to the ones just trying to get into the business versus the ones that are already established in the business. So that's why we did a stair-step type penalty if you fail to use Indian workers. And that's what this is all about, is to your new people getting into the business would take a less of a hit because they're going to be looking at the smaller contracts versus your more established taro vendors that should have the ability to hire more Indian workers and take less of a, the penalty's a little stiffer for them if they don't want to use subcontractors that are taro certified.
Okay.
And I would yield to Meredith to add some to that now.
Okay, Councilor Fred.
Mr. Chairman, we did meet with a major contractor to determine what is fair and reasonable in regard to the subcontractors. And they agreed that a tiered process would be more fair, particularly to the small vendors. So that's what they've come up with. I'm sorry I hadn't read it.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Councilor Sutton.
Yeah, I've got several questions regarding this act. On section 4, part C, I'm curious as to the language that's being proposed here, and one of the sponsors of this advised this council of what the purpose of this language change is, and then I've got several other questions throughout the act. Mr. Chair, if you want me to do them all at once or let other people have some time.
We'll go with the first question. And
Okay.
is there someone that can answer or clarify section 4, item C, as to the language?
The definition. And actually,
Jack, I think these are all, this act, I think it was put in by admin. This is the one that Diane Kelly said at the beginning and all of us went through. This is what was voted on in committee. And some of these changes were a year and a half old.
this was,
And then the subcommittee. But that was by admin.
Is there anyone from administration that can answer Councilor Soap's question on item 4C as to why the language was changed?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I can address that. Well, I think I can address it at least from what I know. This wasn't a draft that I participated in to redraft this language. In fact, I commented on it early on to revise it back to probably similar to what it was before in item C, because the nation obviously was not authorized, its government or so forth, authorized by the Act of Union. So I thought that was a misstatement.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Soap. Continue.
So if I heard that correctly, that this language that's in this particular act that's before us, that statement is not preferred, even though it was a group effort? Is that what I'm hearing?
I would say
Councilor Calhoun Watson.
I have some specific thoughts to that, just to answer Counselor Soap. The way I understood that we came out of that last meeting was there were specific instructions by this body for them to work with myself, the chair, Secretary Knight, and none of that happened. That's why I can't support, because this was not this language being presented to us is not what we requested at the last meeting, and there was not conference as was supposed to, as instructed by the body. I hope that helps answer why there's not agreement.
Okay. Your next question, Councilor Sutton.
Okay. Next question involves Part F of the same Section 4. And that section actually still excludes the nation. So how does that stick and tie with the rest of the intent of the legislation?
I can address that one.
Okay.
Todd,
Got-
Part F, that was one that we was gonna take out because it does not go with the front page.
Yeah, and and if the chair would allow it, as to Section 4C, yeah, that was language that was proposed by the administration. If it is the administration's wish not to have that, I would recommend that there be an amendment to go back to the original language. And as to Section F, or subsection F, the language as it reads right now, the term contractor employer, unless provided in this act, unless provided in this act, excludes the nation. There are sections throughout this act that specifically include the nation and its entities. But if you wanted to be make the general broad statement here, you would just move to strike the underlined.
Okay. So your recommendation is under C that we go back to the stricken language rather than the new language.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay. So what's the pleasure?
I make a motion that we strike this language in subpart C and go back to the original language.
Second.
Wait, is that in the form of a friendly amendment?
Well, he said a motion.
I did not hear, I didn't hear.
He said that he made a motion.
Okay.
I changed it. So the motion's been made and seconded that we go back to the original language under C. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Yes.
I think Todd had another recommendation on that.
Okay. Ms. Catcher, you had,
If I could, thank you. On the proposed change, if we could just add somewhere in this first sentence.
okay. Actually, we're still
Oh, okay,
on Mr. Soap's.
okay.
And then Section 4, I believe it still is, Part W, no, actually it's Section 5, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Section 5, Part W, talks about the Cherokee Nation newspaper, and that's something that's been stricken off the website, and I just wanted to confirm that that's what we're really wanting to do to, since our periodical, and it's probably got a more specific name than the Cherokee Nation newspaper, but since that is just a monthly periodical, is that the intent of this body is to have it circulated once a month, or do we want to be real time, up to date, or what's the?
It'd be whatever the pleasure of the committee is.
Because it does say that it's quarterly rather than monthly. Councilor Fisher-Gong, do you want to address that?
No, I just want to go back to a different one. He's over, I just want to get on this.
Okay. Is there anyone wanting to comment on Councilor Soap's question on W? 5W.
I just wanted to make sure that we just wanted it in the newspaper versus the website, and what the reasoning was for that from the body.
Okay. And no one has any comments on that?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would, I guess it's asking for my opinion. With technology the way it is today, I don't see why there would be a compelling reason to strike out website. And you could put and/or, you could reinsert website and then put and/or newspaper.
I think the discussion was that it would be published quarterly in the newspaper, whether if they change their name or whatever, it still would be in the newspaper. I think it's given that their website would be more up to date because they they put stuff on there, but published for the folks that maybe don't go to the website, it would be published quarterly. But I think you could find it on the website much earlier than that and obviously much later than that.
Okay. The next question I have, Mr. Chair, is in section 12, part C. We actually reduced the fee from $50 to $25. And just wanted a little bit of background information on why Tara would make that recommendation, or why the council would make that recommendation.
Section 12C.
In that section, it says that the payroll may allow exceptions to this, and I'm just curious as to what, since we have Diane here, she could comment as to what reasons we would make exceptions to these particular fees.
Councilor Baker, you want to address his?
The original was $50 per award, and if they had a 12-month contract, they could hire somebody for $50 and thumb their nose in Cherokee. This way, it's $25 a day, and it stacks to where if they keep an employee a year, it makes them think, maybe I ought to find me a Cherokee.
So is this, as an employee, is it an employee in their organization, total employees, or for that specific job? You know, you got 100 employees in the corporation. You send 5 out on the job to mow the grass. 3 of them are non-Cherokee. Are you going to charge them $75, or are you going to charge them $5,000, or whatever percentage is not fully Cherokee in the corporation? How far does that extend out?
Yield for responses.
I would yield.
Councilor Oswald.
As I read it, per award for non-Indians hired in for the project, I would think Tara would interpret that as to be the project on which they're working in Indian country, not the entire corporation. And then secondly, with respect to exceptions, those exceptions, of course, are limited to where the employer is Cherokee Nation or its entities. So we're not talking about any exceptions for any contractors. But I'd let, I'd yield back. That's all the comments I have.
Okay. So can we get some comments on that? Why Tara would find it applicable to not charge these fees?
Are you asking that to
The chair, can you get an answer for us, or?
Ms. Taro? Diane, do you want to comment on this, or?
Melanie can.
Melanie?
Except there she knows what we're doing. Just generally about the interpretation of this, it is changing from 50 per employee per project to 50 per employee per project per day. I mean, to 25 per employee per project per day. So that's the change. It's lowering the fee, but it's assessing a daily fee as opposed to a one-time fee. We discussed this in a meeting that Jody, Chief, myself, and John Overacker had at the complex in terms of its implementation. And that's where we have the largest concern about this provision, and we shared that with Councilor Fishinghawk, that a per day fee or penalty requires us to determine who worked what portion or all of a day, any particular day, on any particular project for any particular vendor. That's an enormous undertaking that we're not presently doing. We right now permit non-Indian workers one time and allow that permit to stand for the project. We at one time proposed a staged permitting depending on the size of the project, assuming that the larger the project, the longer that person would work. What we talked about as an alternative, and which ended up in the executive order, is a daily fee that's assessed on those non-Indian employees where we have provided an Indian employee to fill that position. So if we've provided an Indian from the job bank to fill a position for a vendor, that vendor chooses not to hire that Indian but chooses to keep the non-Indian, then we assess the penalty for that position. Therefore, vendors wouldn't be penalized if we don't have a labor force. but they're hiring non-unions for that job, but they would be penalized if we provided a labor force and they failed to hire those qualified employees.
Councilor Pigeon, Joe.
I was about to say, the day that I was in there talking to you all, I do believe that you all agreed with me on this. But when the executive order came out, you all changed it.
This is the concept that we discussed in that meeting, and John was there, and in fact, he drafted what ended up in the executive order as a daily fee for those employees that we provide. If we provide Indians from the job bank to fill those positions and they fail to hire them, then that would be where we assess the penalty, because we'd know who we referred for what positions, and we wouldn't have to audit people on a daily basis to determine who worked and who didn't and for what period of time.
Okay, so this is y'all's greatest sticking point, you said, the one that caused you most concern. You
Was
just
the
now talking.
implementation, yes. That is
Okay.
one of two issues in this particular version of the bill that was a sticking point.
Well, Melanie, I know we have gave and watered this down and watered this down. And I think we'll give one more time. I'm willing to give on this one more time. I hope that gets on video, that I'm working with them, and I'm willing to give on this one, and I'm willing to use this language.
So you're
About
willing
us
to use,
we have to supply the Cherokee, give them a name, and if they don't hire them, it's $25 a day, which is a $3 an hour premium.
which is what's in the executive order. Is that, you want to go to the language that's in the executive order on that?
$25? Yeah, I'm willing to.
Okay. And as a second, you use, okay. So that's a friendly amendment that is changed. Okay. And Councilor Hoskin, did you have a comment?
I wanted to respond to Councilman Soap's part of his question that I don't know has been addressed. I
Okay.
don't want to overburden the line of questioning, but with respect to exceptions, one thing I think was contemplated is that if there were no exceptions for the nation and its entities for good cause, then C&E is instantly in noncompliance, and they're in noncompliance in a very significant way from day one. And the feedback I was getting was that that wasn't something that they were comfortable with, so this language allowed Taro to demonstrate, to evaluate whether there's good cause, that they're not instantly in compliance with 100% Cherokee employment. But that was my impression, so thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Thanks for that.
Councilor Cobb, do you have a,
Can somebody read me the language of that executive order? I had it last month, but I don't have it in front of me.
I have a copy of it also. I mean,
okay.
If you don't mind reading that, I'd
Can
like
you
to
read
just
that?
read it.
Sure.
please?
Yes, I believe the section would be page 2 of 4, under number 5, ordered. It is hereby ordered, A, that Indian preference as described in this act shall apply to the nation and its business entities. B, to implement section 5. B and 8A of Legislative Act 3805, the Tribal Employment Rights Office, TARO, shall be authorized to administer the following. I, or small 1, any employer as defined in this act shall be required to pay a fee of not less than $25 per employee per award for non-Indian employees hired in the project, hired for the project that are in addition to the core crew. 2, each such employer shall be required to submit a core crew list to the TARO. 3, once the core crew is submitted to TARO, TARO will confirm the essential employees the vendor has listed. 4, if the TARO has identified Indians that can be used for the non-core employees, it shall ask the employer to place the qualified Indians. 5, the employer has a right not to place qualified Indians referred by the TARO for non-core positions. If the employer chooses not to place the Indians referred by the TARO within 3 days, the vendor shall pay $25 per day for each non-Indian the vendor chooses to keep on the project, so long as the qualified Indian is available to work. And 6, the TARO is authorized to administer other fees and penalties as provided in Legislative Act 3805.
Okay. Councilor Sutton.
On section 18, talks about the job bank, and the new line says that funds prepared to use these services shall go to fund recruitment, training potential employees, training for employees, or for personnel, staff recruitment, or job training. And I was just curious as to where did the fines go that are currently assessed? And we're talking about these fines that we just got through discussing, in addition to any fines generated from Section 17 from the new proposed payroll changes.
So your question is, what are the current fines?
Right. We're designating these fines, and I'm just curious, is that really required or necessary? Do they not already go to this series of functions that Tara oversees? So where do the fines go?
You know the answer, especially.
Diane Kelly requested that, when she was up here at that podium that day, she brought that up and she talked to the language of where the monies go.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, I think Section 7 addresses that in terms of funds collected by the Taro. It speaks very broadly to funds collected by Taro and what the purposes of use are, if that's the question.
Right, but where do they, is that where they're currently, so is this really a change necessary or not? That's what I'm asking.
Currently, it's limited to job training programs only, and this would expand that somewhat to recruitment,
Okay.
compliance, and so forth, the ad that's been made there.
Okay.
Councilor Jordan, do you have a comment on that
No, I just want to be put down for,
after Councilor Sullivan?
And then the next question is, Section 19 says it shall be a crime under Cherokee law. What kind of crime is it going to be? If somebody improperly represents.
Mr. Henry?
Currently, there is in our criminal code, a fraud provision. Here, we identify it as a crime, which you would then reference back your criminal statutes. Now, in any crime committed under the laws of the Cherokee Nation, the Major Crimes Act has a limitation to that. It can be no more than 1 year in prison and a fine of $5,000, I believe, is the limitations on it.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Sullivan?
And that's applicable to Cherokee citizens, right, that are managing this?
Yes.
What if there's a partnership? Are they also, does that exclude them from these criminal charges?
Well, usually with the Indian tribal jurisdiction, you have to be a citizen of the tribe for our people to prosecute. But they may have committed a crime under, if we identify the crime in whatever the activity is, they may have qualified themselves for federal prosecution.
Your next question.
Section 24 talks about filing complaints by Taro. It says that they may, or I guess it's up to their discretion, and then it references with the approval of the Attorney General. Can you walk me through that process? This is, the payroll, they might see an issue, and so then they have to go and discuss it with the Attorney General. And so I'm just curious why they have to ask for the approval for prosecution. Is that it?
Mr. Hoskins?
Just briefly, it's my understanding that since Taro does not have any inherent power to prosecute, that the only arm of the nation that does have that power is the Office of Attorney General. And you see this at the federal level and the state level, but they would then make a referral to the Attorney General's office that would then prosecute the violator. That's my understanding, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Anything further?
In section 26, it talks about an informal complaint. Is that different than a formal complaint?
Section 26B.
Right, it just carries on throughout that section. And is there a difference between an informal or a formal complaint?
Ms. Knight.
Mr. Chairman, in implementing this, and I assisted in drafting much of this, that A through C would provide an informal resolution process for the complainant and Taro to try to achieve some kind of agreement on the issue. If that fails, then in D is where it becomes formal, where if that fails, then the complainant has the right to bring action to the Administrative Appeals Board, and then it goes forward as a formal process from that point forward, is my understanding.
Okay. Mr. Henry agrees.
Yes.
Okay. Anything further?
And the other one, the question that I have is in section 26, it talks about the payment of damages to compensate an injured party. And then it says shall not exceed $100,000. And it says the sovereignty of the Cherokee Nation is specifically waived as to this amount. And I just want to be refreshed on how we came up to that amount.
Does anyone have?
The idea is to have a damage cap especially when you're waiving your sovereign immunity. The state of Oklahoma, just like any other states, you want to do it for very specific reasons and for specific amounts. $100,000 is a figure that, if I remember correctly in the debates or the discussions, was less than what the state of Oklahoma waived their sovereign immunity for under the Governmental Tort Claims Act, but still was yet enough to make it a substantial risk. $100,000 is a good amount of money. It may not be compared to maybe an $80 million contract, but it is a figure that was less than the state of Oklahoma, but yet enough to get someone's attention, I guess, would be the best way to put it.
Are you about finished, Mr. Soap?
Yes, sir.
Or is that? Councilor Jordan.
I'd call for the question.
As a point, may I make a
Second.
point of clarification?
I'd call for the question.
The question's been called. So,
Can I make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
no.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, roll call, please.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Tanya Blair Jordan,
Yes.
Chris Soap,
No.
Curtis Snell, David Thornton,
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts. No. Bill Anglin,
No.
Bill John Baker,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
No.
Harley Buzzard,
No.
Julia Coates. No. Bradley Cobb,
No.
Joe Crittenden,
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
No.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Varden.
Pass. Abstain.
8 yes, 8 no, and 1 abstention.
So 8 yes, 8 no, so the motion failed. Yes, Ms. Fisher.
Okay, the discussion's continued, and I'd like to yield to Harley Buzzard.
We've already
Oh,
passed it,
oh, okay.
so the motion failed.
Okay.
So now we go to move on to new business. Item 1. Okay. Item 1, Mr. Hoskins, this is your act, I believe.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this legislation will amend the act that we passed recently, the Donations and Contributions Act. Let me walk through what the language in our book says. I believe that there are some counselors ready to make some friendly amendments, but if you direct your attention to Section 5E under awards, currently states that the principal chief will only make awards to projects that have consent of the subcommittee. The language would change that the principal chief will only make awards to, I'm sorry, let me back up. The current language says the principal chief will only make awards to recommended projects that have unanimous consent of the subcommittee. So the threshold question in any donation is whether the chief says yes or no. Not only is that the threshold question, that's really the only question that is of any effect. This would change that. This would require the principal chief to make awards to projects that garner 2/3 majority of the subcommittee. Section 5F strikes language concerning funding when the project is not recommended by the principal chief. So it would now read, if a request for funding fails to have consent of the subcommittee, the funding request may be considered by the council for an appropriation pursuant to the normal appropriation process. It adds language that I think just further clarifies what this section means, and it says nothing in this act shall limit the authority of the council to appropriate funds under the Constitution or any other law. The main part of this section is it takes out the section dealing with a recommendation by the principal chief, because the recommendation by the principal chief becomes irrelevant for the purpose of something being approved. So that is it in essence, Mr. Chairman. I do believe that there were some friendly amendments.
But, well, the motion's been made yet. You make the motion?
Right, I make the motion to.
Second.
Okay, motion made,
Friendly
seconded.
amendment.
Okay.
I would ask that on E, instead of 2/3, we do simple majority.
No, I accept.
And then I would ask that, further in that friendly amendment, that we delete the last line of G.
And if I understand you, Councilman Lord Jordan, this would strike the limitation on equitable distribution of the funds. Right now, the equitable distribution ends on March 31st of each fiscal year. Your friendly would strike that. There would be
And
equitable
just keep it
distribution
equitable
throughout the year.
throughout the year.
I agree with that and accept.
Okay. So the motion's been made and seconded. Is there further discussion?
Mr.
Yes,
Chair, would
Brady.
you mind, Mr. Hoskin, may I direct to him? Would you
Yes.
mind reading that section again as to how you accepted the amendments?
Certainly, it would be Section 5E as amended. It would be the principal chief will only make awards to projects that have majority support of the subcommittee. There's probably better language to use than that. Right now it says 2/3. It would say approval of the subcommittee, maybe for lack of a better term. The other friendly amendment had to do with Section 5G, which would simply strike the last sentence.
Okay.
Okay. Further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye. Actually,
Aye.
those opposed?
Aye.
Roll call. And it is an act, we should have a roll call anyway.
Bill John Baker,
Yes.
Jack Baker.
No.
Harley Buzzard,
No.
Julia Coates,
No.
Bradley Cobb,
No.
Joe Crittenden,
Yes.
Jody Fishingham,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin,
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Hannah Glory Jordan,
Yes.
Chris Stowe,
No.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts,
Is this, excuse me, I'm sorry. Is this the act that was on the
Yes.
table? No.
Bill England,
No.
we have 9 yes and 8 no.
Okay. The act pass. Okay. Next is item 2 under new business. Counselor Baker. Or Counselor Hoskin.
Yeah.
Whichever.
Let Chuck speak to it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Essentially, this follows up on what was discussed, I think, a month or two ago concerning repairing driveways for Cherokees. We were told that funds from the bridge access funds could not be used, at least that was some of the information we were getting. I think there had been a background of maybe some conflicting information on that. We were also told that the program currently in place that allows a Cherokee to get materials only to repair parts of their home and make it accessible could not be used for driveways. So this addresses those two. I'd like to follow up with some comments, but I move for its approval.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Can I just briefly follow
Yes.
up? And in essence, there are two main provisions of this, Section 5A and Section 5B. The first, Section 5A, allows for the self-help funds that materials only to be used for driveways. So if a Cherokee has himself or herself or friends and family volunteers can help repair a driveway, they can now tap into those existing funds to use to repair their driveway. It doesn't add a single dime to the budget, it just allows them to use funds that have already been appropriated. Section 5B allows projects to go forward where repair is on a driveway, but is being used, but the desire is to use the funds set aside for bridge access. There may be some cases where a county commissioner or a county government is not willing to do that, but to the extent that there is, to the extent that all the parties can agree, then this would allow those funds to be used for that kind of construction. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Calhoun Watts.
It's still not clear, given the budget situation that we're given, how we could fairly and equitably distribute any of this money, if it could even go far enough for something that I think would create such a demand when no other government provides such a service for private individuals. And it seems like to me that it would cannibalize existing funds for like roofs and other emergency repairs to the actual home. So I don't understand how we could support this and be fair to Cherokees involved. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Baker.
There is another government that does this. It's called the Eastern Band of the Cherokees. And they actually pay their citizens' roads to their homes, even if it's on top of the mountain. But that being said, I don't foresee this as being given lightly. I don't see as this being every citizen of the Cherokee Nation coming forth and wanting. It should be for emergencies only. When it's elders and we've got ambulance and we've got propane tanks and we've got things like that that are really create hardships and safety issues that we would use this. And in the years that I've been on the council, there's been maybe 3 or 4 cases that would rise where this would really be an absolute necessity. And we would welcome, guidelines from the program that we could look at that would not just open the floodgates. But folks, there's folks out there that's all they need is to be able to get to their house and be able to sleep at night knowing that when their wife or their husband goes in distress, that an ambulance can get there. And I think that we're being extremely short-sighted if we don't pass this. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Calvin Watts.
I would be interested in hearing from the staff who would have to administer this program, or maybe our Secretary of State. I don't know if there's somebody here to speak to this.
What specifically?
The impact to our existing services and logistically what this would mean. And before they talk too, I think there's a big delineation between, like, we don't give away generators. We have those for emergencies and loan them out. I don't know, do we give away tanks for propane? Or are those loaned out? I mean, this is there's a big difference between these other programs that are referred. So I'd like to hear more from them.
But specifically about
The impact.
the effect?
The effect.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I can start, and then I'd like for Barry Hood to continue. He works in the roads program every day. First of all, my reading of it is that it sets up an expectation for a broad program that is utilizing existing funds that we already fully utilize. And one of those funds is the self-help housing, which provides materials only for housing, but it also provides a weatherization program, is my understanding, that we do every year, and that has been important to the nation to do. So my concern is that we're utilizing those funds to provide for private drives of individuals, and that is not feasible. That we've already had a whole lot of requests being made by their own initiative with anticipation of this act passing. We've been getting several phone calls requesting the funds already. So I would like Mr. Hood to make some comments from the roads perspective.
Good.
I know as being in the roads department, we get calls all the time for people that need driveway pipe, need access to their homes. County commissioners are not willing to do the work because it's off the right of way. But there is a need out there, but it could turn into a big snowball if it's done. Because there's people that call all the time wanting driveway pipes, gravel. You know, they need access to their home. They don't have a way to spread the gravel once they get it. So I mean, that's something to be thought about also. Is that any questions or?
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Cobb.
Actually, I think Secretary of State answered my question on qualification. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Hoskin.
Thank you. I think it's an excellent point. I mean, is it your impression that it would be the rare exception that a county commissioner would allow work to be done, say, installing a new whistle between a public road and a private driveway? Would that be a rare exception?
Not necessarily. I think the county commissioners would be willing to do that if the material was bought for them or furnished for them. But as far as getting off the right of way behind the fence line, they're not willing to do that. They're not legally able.
So, and I don't know is there an average on a cost for a whistle that's graveled over on a county road? I mean, would you even dare to give an estimate on that?
Maybe $30-40 a foot, depending on how long you need.
Okay. So the idea, Mr. Chairman, would be that to the extent that a county would be willing to provide the labor to install a whistle and gravel over it, that would be part of a bridge access request that would filter through the county commissioner and the council into the roads program. I don't think that this act contemplates, Mr. Chairman, that beyond that the driveway to the house would necessarily, certainly if the county commissioner were willing to do it, then it would qualify, but I think it'd be almost the rare exception that a county commissioner would be willing to pave it or gravel it all the way up to the home. Is that your estimation?
They wouldn't go past the right of way.
Okay, so if that's the case, what we're talking about, Mr. Chairman, is a very limited use of the existing bridge access. And in fact, literally, bridges a ditch, if you will, and provides access to a driveway. If a county commissioner were willing to do that, then that would allow these funds, I would say a modest amount of these funds, to be used for those projects. Now let's take it beyond the whistle, beyond the ditch. And then we're talking about most likely falling within the self-help program. Now I appreciate the fact that we fully utilize the self-help funds. One constituent in my district needs to get from the public road to her home. And I know Councilman Bill John Baker has more examples of these, but I have at least one. She clearly qualifies for the self-help program. And this isn't your program, but I appreciate your comments. But the absurd result that she has seen is that the nation says, we're willing to help you with your porch if you need a ramp to get to your driveway, but we're not willing to help you connect that driveway to the road. She is poised to do a project with volunteers and friends and family that would be well within the bounds of this $1,500 if the nation will just release the funds. I fail to see a difference between a ramp that connects a door to a driveway so that somebody can access their home to a driveway connecting the driveway to the street. Because if we help them get to the driveway, but that's as far as they can get, we really haven't helped them. So, Mr. Chairman, I think if we put in perspective the impact this will have, and I think what the gentleman is saying about the roads program, I think we've seen that it will be a very modest impact on the roads bridge access budget. And I think that it's the right thing to do in terms of self-help. Once you get to the driveway and you need to gravel it up to your home if you've got friends and family that will help you. So I think that the concerns about the budget are, I think, overstated with all due respect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Thorne.
Yes. Over the years, I've received very few requests for people putting in tin horns and trying to get to their house. It isn't just a landslide of people that need that help. Mostly are elders and that live off the road quite a ways that need this help. In the past, the Housing Authority had a program that they would go in and put down tin horns and put down and gravel. But evidently, they tell us that they quit that, but I can go to one house right now in the past 6 months where there's been tin horns laid and gravel all the way to the house. So I think it depends on what's going on here. I don't see why you can't use that bridge access money for a person to get a tin horn and get a few loads of gravel to help them get to their house. I think that's what that was first come about. Supposed to happen was they were supposed to help. We were supposed to help with that roads money for these people to be able to get to their house if they need to. And then all of a sudden we come up this year and no, we can't use that funding for that. So I can't understand it myself. You know, it's five if you do and 5 if you don't. You know, so I'm going to have to be for this, so it will help a few people in my district. And there's very few that need it. Thank you, sir.
Councilor Baker.
Yeah, and the truth is, Barry is absolutely 100% correct. There are lots of Cherokees out there that want gravel on the road. But that whittles down tremendously when you talk about who needs it. It really, I mean, there's wants and there's needs. And if they can demonstrate a need that the ambulance can't get there, not that it's a rough ride, but that the ambulance can't get there or the propane truck can't get there, then I think we're talking about a different breed of dog. Now, don't know what we're going to do this year. Last year we carried over $18,000 in the self-help program, so apparently there wasn't 100% utilization need, because we carried over $18,000 that could have maybe helped this 1 or 2 little ladies that were concerned about being able to get the ambulance to their family. So we carried over $18,000 last year in that particular program that did not get to anybody, no services to anybody. Wasn't needed for a roof apparently. It wasn't needed for one of these other items. And so we carried over money. We're not talking about opening the floodgates, folks. We're talking about if they demonstrate this need, and it has, and I'll be glad to like I say, I was hoping that the program would sit there and come up with some good, solid guidelines, because it's their job to make the policy. If we don't like it, we can tweak it, but let them run the program, let them make the policy, let them take care of the needs, where there's really life and health and emergency concerns like that. When we talk about the bridge and road, that the last few months just says, well, you can't use it for that. I mean, I remember when we established the bridge and roads funds, we were down in Adair County. I made the motion, and Buell England made the friendly amendment to say that it could be for access, and he mentioned tin horns at that time, because he apparently in his district he had needs for it, and we all agreed to it. So why would we change the rules in midstream? And all this is clarifying what our original intent was. You remember that, Buell? When you made that friendly amendment for the tin horns and stuff?
Well, I don't remember making the friendly amendment, but I just for a point of clarification, every county commissioner that I deal with in my district, because I'm a home builder, every county commissioner puts a tin horn and one load of gravel on the tin horns with no expense. That's the taxpayers paying that.
Well,
so I don't know where.
Apparently Cherokee County doesn't have that money, but anyway, because they don't.
Yeah, 3 different counties.
But like I say, Buell was the one that made that. I mean, we can go back and look at the minutes and notes, but we said it then, and I don't know why, how all of a sudden it changed that we can't use that money for that now. And we carried over $18,000 in the self-help. And the self-help folks, they're going to get the nephew or the son or use their tractor, and they're going to get out and spread it themselves. We're not asking that we send dozers out there. We're not asking that. It's self-help. Self-help. Thank you.
Councilor Fulbright.
Yes, I'm going to support this because in my district, I haven't had any requests. I think the real need is small. I don't think we're going to be flooded with requests. And there could be some occasions arise where after these freeze and thaw, where people absolutely cannot get in and out. And I think it would be rare that we would be called upon to do it, but I think we're talking about a very small amount of money here, and I think in some instances it would be warranted that we do this. So I'm going to support it. That's all. Thank you.
Councilor Calvin Watts.
Thank you. I did some back of the envelope calculations, and if we assume, for example, 18,000 is the cushion we have, I think at $350 a load of gravel, that's 3 loads of gravel per 15 council members. So I'd like to make a friendly amendment that we allow 3 loads of gravel per council person, and all of the people who receive those must be published in the Cherokee Phoenix.
Are you asking for a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Chuck made the motion.
Second.
What? Chuck, she's asking for a friendly amendment.
Yes, what is it?
Would you repeat that for Councilor Hoskin, please?
Yeah, I'm offering a friendly amendment. I think at 18, if 18,000 at $350 a load with 15 council members, you can really only do, probably by the time we pay taxes and handling fees or whatever, about 3 loads per council person of gravel, if that's what we've got to work with. So I'd make a friendly amendment that we all get 3 loads of gravel to give away, I guess, and that those people who receive that gravel must be published in the Cherokee Phoenix then.
Well, I want to yield some time to Councilman Bill John Baker for his comments if he has any. I think it's a step in the right direction. It goes from the absurd policy of doing nothing for driveways to giving some loads of gravel, but every project is different. The particular constituent I have actually has a bridge that she can build over this water area if she just gets the lumber. If she just gets the lumber, the same lumber, Mr. Chairman, that she could go down and buy to build a handicap ramp for her elderly mother. She can't go to that same lumber yard to buy lumber to put over this bridge. So I think that friendly amendment's too restrictive. I appreciate the effort, but I yield to Councilman Bill John Baker if he has any comments on it.
Well, Bill has just said that his county commissioners provide the tin horns and gravel.
But, excuse me, one second. On the friendly amendment, are you saying no, or are you
no, I do
still
not accept it.
considering?
Well, I wanted to hear from my co-sponsor before I
Decided? Okay.
And so the need, and you know, we're right back to the same philosophy that all Cherokees and all parts of the Cherokee Nation can all fit in a round hole. And sometimes we got square pegs. And the need for driveways in metropolitan areas might be little or none. Little or none. In some of these rural areas, it might be a major deal. And
are you going to?
No, I cannot.
Okay,
I agree with the co-sponsor.
Okay. Then your friendly amendment is denied.
May I make that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Dawn seconded.
And would this strike the substantive language and replace it with 3 loads of gravel?
Is that your?
Yes, because I don't see how else would keep it under control.
Okay. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded that we replace the language with the 3 loads of gravel per counselor. Is any discussion? Councilor Thorne.
Well, when you're paying $350 a load, in my area, I'll pay $150 for gravel. For river gravel, it'd be less than that. So I wouldn't limit it to so much of a load. I'd just limit it to so much funding. So that would be a friendly amendment. Instead of going 350, just go so much.
What is that, 1,200?
1,100 per council person.
That sounds great, I
Whatever
accept
you do.
it.
For 1,200 per council person?
I think that's about,
Okay.
in my second, accepted as well.
Yes.
Will the councilwoman accept an amendment that gravel or equivalent driveway materials?
Yeah, why not? But it still stands, they have to be published in the Cherokee Phoenix, who they are.
Okay. Does your second accept that?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, roll call, please.
Just a point of clarification. Yes is for her motion.
Yes.
No is we go back to talking about our original motion.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
Exactly, can somebody read me exactly what this says?
What we're voting on.
Correct.
Is that it's going to be $1,200 per council person for driveway materials.
And it's published in the Cherokee Phoenix.
Right. Okay. Roll call, please.
Jody Fishinghawk,
No.
Mary Fraley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
I'll pass.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
No.
Tina Gloria Jordan,
No.
Chris Soap,
No.
Curtis Snell,
No.
David Thornton,
No.
Kara Cowan Watts,
Yes.
Gil England,
Yes.
Bill John Baker,
No.
Jack Baker,
Yes.
Harley Buzzard,
No.
Julia Coates,
Yes.
Bradley Cobb,
Yes.
Joe Crittenden,
No.
Janelle Fulbright.
No.
7 yes and 10 no.
Okay, motion failed. Okay, is there further discussion on the original act? Motion. Counselor Cobb.
Can I ask, it's been a while since I've actually looked at the guidelines for self-help. Can somebody give me some kind of paraphrase version of self-help guidelines?
Is this something you say
It
first?
just states in there. It just basically states in there that it's for materials only to repair your home, for minor repairs of
But
the
who
home.
qualifies for that? Give me income guidelines. I mean, how do you qualify for that?
It is the national medium, 50%.
Okay, that's what I want. Thank you very much.
Counselor Crittenden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I called somebody just the other day about some material only that was just mentioned. And I was told that program is kind of the last ditch effort to help somebody, that they needed to go through rehab first and some of these other programs before they got to that program, which seemed to me maybe it kind of made some difficulty there. But I had another comment. It seems like here of late, every time we have a chance to help our people, the folks like this with this access, now we're not going to have a bunch like Mr. Thornton said and Janelle said, but we do have some in Adair County. The roads are not all the same. And every time it seems like that we run into all this opposition about worrying about the budget. I think we ought to be good stewards of the people's money. But I don't understand when we can throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at these elected officials during our PAC business, and we can turn around and it's like swallowing a camel and straining out the gnats. We don't take care of our people's needs, and we'll throw money at those people like it's going out of style. Just something to think about, and I hope that gets out to some of the other folks. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Is there any further discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Just a point of clarification, can we go over what we're voting on?
The act as presented.
Just as it states now, with no changes?
Right.
Okay.
Bill England,
No.
Bill John Baker,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
No.
Carly Buzzard,
No.
Julia Coates,
No.
Bradley Cobb,
No.
Joe Crittenden,
Yes.
Jody Fishing Hawk,
Pass.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin,
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Tina Glory Jordan,
Yes.
Chris Soap,
No.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
Kara Colin Watts,
No.
Jody Fishing Hawk,
Yes.
we have 9 yes and 8 no.
Okay. The act passed. And if there's no objection, I'm going to declare a 5-minute recess because our lunch has been here for more than a half an hour. So get your lunch and bring it back in and we'll reconvene in 5 minutes.